a twin-engine fighter pushing past Mach 1.8 without afterburners changes the fight before the enemy even knows it has started. The kind of speed, paired with long track and high altitude reach, decides who owns contested airspace. In this ranking, the metric is first strike lethality, the measurable ability to detect, lock, and destroy a threat before it can shoot back. Let's begin with number 10. At number 10, the F-16C Fighting Falcon. The F-16C Fighting Falcon is a lightweight, single-engine fighter built to turn speed and agility into survival. Its A-frame can pull up to 9 Gs in a hard maneuver, which give a pilot a real edge in close-range fight where timing matters more than raw size. In a rapid intercept over hostile borders, that kind of energy lets the jet stay inside an opponent turning circle and force the fight on its own term. It is fast, responsive, and still lethal targets after entering service. But the F-16's biggest weakness is also what makes it so flexible. It relies on external weapons and fuel for heavier missions. Those pilots increase radar signature and track, which give modern air defenses a better chance to see and track it early. That matters because once the enemy gets the first clean lock, the F-16 loses some of its advantage in long-range missile combat. It ranks here because it is still an excellent fighter, but it gives up stealth and sustained first-shot pressure to the aircraft above it. At number 9, the FA-18E Super Hornet. The FA-18E Super Hornet is a carrier-based multi-role fighter built to operate from the sea and strike hard from a moving runway. Its ALQ-214 countermeasure system helps jam hostile radar and confuse incoming threats, which is especially valuable during naval strike missions against coastal defenses. With up to an 8,000-pound payload, it can put serious firepower on target while protecting the fleet's outer edge. In a real strike package, that combination lets the jet suppress enemy defenses long enough for the rest of the force to get through. Its limitation is thrust, even with external tanks carrying 480 gallons of fuel. The Super Hornet rarely pushes for beyond Mach 1.6 in combat conditions. That means it depends more on electronic protection that escapes speed, and that becomes a problem if a faster interceptor gets through the jamming screen. It ranks above the F-16 because it brings stronger electronic warfare and carrier flexibility, but it still cannot match the raw air-to-air pressure of dedicated interceptor. At number 8, the F-15C Eagle. The F-15C Eagle is a pure air superiority fighter built for one job: finding enemy aircraft and destroying them first. Its twin engine produces over 47,000 lbf of combined thrust, driving the jet to speeds above Mach 2.5 in clean configuration. In combat air patrol, that speed matters because it lets the F-15C close descent fast, launch from a favorable position, and force the enemy into a defensive reaction. This is the kind of fighter that punishes mistakes instantly. Its weaknesses is mission range. The F-15C is exceptional in air-to-air combat, but it is not designed to strike fortified ground targets or acts as a true multi-role platform. If the threat stays hidden on the ground, this jet cannot solve the problem by itself. It ranks above the Super Hornet because it has more pure air dominance, more thrust, and better kill chain in aerial combat, but it still lacks of the electronic attack depth of the next aircraft. At number 7, the AA-18G Growler. The AA-18G Growler wins by attacking the enemy's sensors before the enemy can fight back. It carries specially set receivers that pick up hostile radar emission and locate them at long range, then responds with intense electronic interference. in anticipation of enemy defense mission. That means it can plan radar sight, disrupt missile guidance, and open corridor for strike aircraft to move through. The crawler does not dominate by speed alone. It dominates by making the airspace unusable for the opponent. Its trade-off is that electronic warfare comes with physical vulnerability. With up to 5 pods mounted externally, it produces significant drag, and its speed in heavy jamming role sits near Mach 1.0. It also carries only 2 missiles for self-defense, which is not much if a hostile fighter breaks through the interference bubble. It ranks here because it changes the battlefield for everyone else, but it is not built to survive a strike dogfight when the aircraft above it can. At number 6, the F-35B Lightning II. The F-35B Lightning II is a 5th-generation strike fighter designed for stealth, surprise, and expeditionary operations from short runways or amphibious ships. Its low observable design and internal weapon base let it penetrate advanced air defenses without broadcasting its position too early. In a forward-deploy strike mission, it can launch from improvised bases and deliver 1,000-pound precision bombs while staying difficult to detect. That makes it ideal for fast reaction missions where access is limited and timing is everything. Its unique lift fan and vertical landing hardware create a major compromise. Internal fuel is limited to about 13,500 pounds, which keeps its unrefueled combat radius near 450 nautical miles. That restriction matters because it forces commanders to place tankers and support assets closer to the fight. The F-35B ranks above the crawler because stealth gives it a better first shot advantage, but its fuel penalty keeps it below the more balanced strike platforms ahead of it. Before we continue, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next breakdown, and leave a like if this topic has been useful so far. Also drop a comment on what we should cover next. At number 5, the F-15E Strike Eagle. The F-15E Strike Eagle is a heavy strike fighter built to carry large weapons load deep into congested airspace. With conformal fuel tanks adding 750 gallons each, it reaches a very range of 2,100 nautical miles, which give it the endurance to escort other aircraft and stay on station for long periods. Its external hardpoint can carry up to 23,000 pounds of ordnance, turning it into a serious battlefield problem for anything on the ground. In a deep strike scenario, that mix of range and payload lets it hit hard and keep moving. A modern digital electronic warfare suit helps it survive by jamming threats and managing incoming radar energy, but the airframe is still easy to see. Its external load creates a large radar signature, which means modern surface-to-air missile system can detect it much earlier than the stealth aircraft. That vulnerability is why it depends so heavily on standoff tactics and electronic protection. It ranks above the F-35B because it can carry more, stay longer, and strike deeper, but it still cannot match the stealth and naval integration of the next jet. At number 4, the F-35C Lightning II. The F-35C Lightning II brings 5th-generation stealth to the carrier deck, and that combination gives the fleet a much longer reach. Its larger folding wings improve low-speed handling for carrier recovery, while its internal fuel load climbs to nearly 19,750 pounds, extending its combat radius well beyond the short-range vertical variant. In a blue water strike mission, it can launch from a carrier, slip inside enemy maritime defense, and drop 5,000 pounds of internal ordnance without lighting up every radar in the area. That is a major advantage in the opening phase of a naval flight. Its limitation is maneuver margin. The reinforced landing gear and heavier structure make it less agile than the land-based fighters, and its ceiling tops out around 50,000 feet. In a sudden close-in engagement, That weight penalty can reduce its ability to recover energy quickly and stay ahead of a dedicated interceptor. It ranks above the F-15E because stealth and carrier mobility are far more valuable in contested theater, but it still does not carry the missile volume or a air dominance profile of the aircraft above it. At number 3, the F-15EX Eagle II. The F-15EX Eagle II is a modern missile carrier built to dominate from outside the enemy's reach. It uses open architecture avionics, a highly advanced fly-by-wire system, and an airframe life of 20,000 hours, which give it long-term operational value and strong readiness potential. In a defensive counter-air mission, it can sit behind stealthier fighters and retrieve targeting data through secure links, then unleash up to 12 missiles in a single volley. That makes it a brutal answer to mass bomber or drone formations. Its twin engine produces more than 58,000 lbf of combined thrust, which helps it accelerate hard and launch weapons with extra kinetic energy. But the jet's large radar signature is a real weakness in modern anti-access environments. It cannot survive where stealth aircraft can, and it depends heavily on outside targeting support to stay effective. It ranks above the F-35C because it carries more weapons, launches more missiles, and hits harder from standoff range, but it remains a support-heavy platform rather than the deepest penetrator. At number 2, the F-35A Lightning II. The F-35A Lightning II is the aircraft that turns stealth, sensor, and strike capability into one connected combat system. Its AN/APG ACTI-1 AESA radar can track air and ground threats while also supporting electronic warfare functions, which means the pilot sees the battlefield more clearly than most opponents ever will. In an offensive counter-air mission against a hardened target, the jet can slip through integrated air defense, identify radar emitters, and release 2,000-pound precision-guided weapons from inside hostile territory. That is not just attack, it is battlefield disassembly from the inside out. It also carries an internal 25mm rotary cannon, which give ground troops close support when the mission shifts at low altitude. The limitation is raw speed. With a top speed around Mach 1.6, it cannot simply outrun a high-speed interceptor if it is caught outside its advantage window. It ranks above the F-15EX because sensor fusion and stealth create a far more decisive first-shot advantage, but it still gives up pure air superiority to the aircraft at number 1. At number 1, the F-22 Raptor. The F-22 Raptor is the clearest expression of first strike lethality in the US inventory because it was built for one mission, on the sky before the enemy can react. Its radar cross-section is famously tiny, around 0.0001 square meters, which makes it extremely difficult to detect at useful range. In a high-end air battle, it can supercruise at Mach 1.8 without afterburners, move into position quickly, fire from a hidden angle, and leave before the enemy can build an effective response. That is the difference between being seen and being shot. Its two engines generate 35,000 pounds of thrust each, and the 2D thrust vectoring nozzles can pivot up to 20 degrees, giving the fighter extreme control in the merge. If a hostile jet somehow forces close combat, the F-22 can still outmaneuver it with high angle of attack performance that few aircraft can match. Its main limitation is sustainment. The stealth coating requires careful maintenance, and the jet is not built to haul heavy strike weapons or operate from raw forward bases. But that limitation does not reduce its dominance in air superiority. It just defines its purpose. It ranks first because it combines stealth, speed, and control better than anything else in the fleet. We have now covered the full scale of first strike lethality from agile multi-role fighters to stealth penetrators and missile trucks that reshape the fight before it begins. In modern air combat, dominance does not come only from speed or only from stealth. It comes from the platform that sees first, shoots first, and survives long enough to do it again. Thus, air superiority belong more to stealthy hunters that kill alone, or to missile-heavy fighters that fight as a part of a larger network. Make sure to subscribe for more military breakdowns like this. And leave a like if you want to see more top 10 modern warfare rankings in the future. If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to watch the next video on your screen for another in-depth look at modern military.